Hi everyone. Welcome to the show again. We've got quite a bit of stuff to catch up. Basically, got 2 weeks to catch up on, and it's a lot. So, we're going to run it in themes instead of like different headlines today. Yeah,
Absolutely. I'm so glad to be here again for you guys. Let's get through it because the past 2 weeks have been crazy in AI.
absolutely. Cool. I guess just putting our first theme out here, which is basically the money getting huge in AI. So, yeah, NVIDIA has teamed up with basically all of Wall Street, Apollo, BlackRock, Blackstone, and all of these guys to raise $500 billion for AI infrastructure. And they're treating compute, the chips and data centers as a whole new asset class you can invest in, which is crazy.
Yeah, and Jensen did say in AI, compute is revenue. And he's inviting the biggest long term capital on earth to underwrite AI infrastructure like it's the power grid. And I believe it was KKR's response that was the grounded one. That delivery, not ambition, is the hard part.
Yeah. And we're also hearing stuff on the Anthropic IPO, which has been like quite a bit of of news in the past couple of months. Anthropic had filed a confidential S1 earlier this year, and apparently they're targeting an IPO in September or early October, which is like almost here. And the private round valued them around 965 billion, a 47 billion run rate, which is huge. And people are floating a public cap between anywhere around 1.2 to 1.8 trillion dollars. And yeah, so it's interesting. They also spun up this is a data center venture which Macquarie and GIC, or with Macquarie and GIC, where Anthropic is another tenant, and even agreed to eat any local electricity price increases the site's costs.
Yes, and that electricity promise is quietly huge because it's them admitting these data centers push up power prices for regular people and pre-buying the goodwill. And on the chip side, Intel launched a $15 billion stock sale, and it's actually its first public share offering since 1971 to fund actually AI capex. So shares dipped a little bit, but let's see how this one goes.
Yeah, and since I am in APAC, we've heard this amazing investment news from firms in Australia, which is raising $2 billion at a 10.5 billion valuation from NVIDIA, Blackstone, and even Jane Street is a part of it, roughly doubling in 4 months. So we're seeing this kind of infrastructure money getting completely unhinged in the past couple of weeks, and the smart money is treating compute like real estate basically.
Yeah, and it's getting huge and massive, like obviously covering the whole globe, which is either the strongest signal yet that the demand is real, or it's probably the clearest sign that we've built a machine to keep the spend going no matter what. Or maybe it's probably both, I don't know.
Yeah. Cool. I think one thing that everyone's excited about this that's happening lately is the coding wars. Stuff coming in from Meta, especially. So yeah, what
Yeah.
do you have to say about that?
Well, okay. I think this is the most contested space in AI right now. And who owns the thing that writes the code? And this fortnight, it went off because Meta actually shipped Muse Code, a terminal coding agent with persistent memory, parallel subagents in isolated Git work trees, a million token context, and an auditable event log. And in an internal test, it made over 1,000 tool calls across 24 hours straight, optimizing GPU kernels, which is crazy.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because Meta isn't a model supplier to the coding world anymore. They're a direct competitor in it with this launch,
Exactly.
going straight at Cursor, Cloud Code, and the likes. And speaking of Cursor, I think they had stuff going on as well. Two big things. One, that $60 billion all stock acquisition by SpaceX is nearing close, and they're loading up on seen in talent right before it. And the second one is they're about to launch a code review product, reportedly called Cursor Review, that pulls in your GitHub repos and runs an automated pull request pipeline where humans and agents work through open PRs together, which is great.
Yeah, so Cursor is actually moving from writing code to reviewing it, which is actually smart, I believe, because review is where the trust actually lives. And it's not just them. I think it was DoorDash that said that its Flux system automated 130,000 engineering tasks in a month and powered over 25,000 code reviews in a week.
Yeah, I mean, we've been covering enterprise AI quite a bit with some great practitioners. So this really touches that part. Those DoorDash numbers, for example, are wild that they've reported using Flux. But I did read their entire article, and it's kind of worth a caveat. They don't define what counts as a task here, and they didn't repeat the more honest numbers the same team put out in May, about $3 per review and roughly 60% acceptance on high severity findings, where an engineer actually changed the code before merging. But volume tells you the sandboxes are very busy. Acceptance is what tells you the agents are actually really good. So congrats to DoorDash on building this great product.
And I believe this is the pattern to watch across all of this because everyone's shouting volume numbers and the real signal is actually acceptance. And did a human trust it enough to ship it, which is actually the talk that we've been having with most of our guests just yet. So on that note, Claude Opus 5 landed to big benchmarks, but a mixed real world reception. So developers found it strong on not making basic mistakes, but weaker on broader context and system design. And some even preferred the older version, which is Opus 4.8, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, and I think which is the honest state of coding agents right now. Benchmarks are up, and to the right, day-to-day experiences sometimes are bumpy, but they're getting better. And yeah, we'll wait and watch every model that kind of performs in the coming weeks. And then you have this interesting piece, which kind of like really made a headway in the open weights space. On the model side, the open weights wave kind of kept building, which is exciting because up until it was mostly like Chinese models, kind of like, you know, creating excitement around this. So Meta Open Muse Glimmer, a 30 billion parameter model that runs locally on an 18 GB setup or a single consumer GPU, fully Apache 2.0, and apparently it's strong on planning, tool use, and long tasks. And developers are already fine tuning it on Hugging Face and other platforms like LM Studio, all of it.
Yeah. So the signal is that this is America finally showing up to the open weights race that China's been running away with. So a genuinely capable model that runs on your own machine is a real answer to Kimi and Quen, I believe. And Mark Zuckerberg's trying to do this personal super intelligence for everyone pitch, and it kind of works actually.
Yeah, he did this manifesto as well, which we're going to get to in a bit. Also, just talking of models, Alibaba's Quem 3.8 Max landed at 2.4 trillion parameters, and DeepSeek's V4 Flash. They're both open weight, by the way. I mean, we've like so many open weight models now, with DeepSeek claiming an operating cost more than 100 times below Claude Fable 5. So the open weight plus, open weight plus rock bottom price pattern just keeps compounding every week, and we've been covering it ourselves. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and I believe that's the squeeze the US labs have felt all year. And Meta going open on this fortnight is basically the American response to it. So the whole industry's cost floor keeps dropping at this point. So one smaller one to flag, and there's the chatter that Anthropic will start adding invisible statistical watermarks to cloud output. So everybody would know if your content has been generated by any of their models. So treat this as a rumor for now. We don't know if this is actually in the latest release of the app update, which I still haven't updated, but I believe that this is going to come to me if I update the Cloud app.
Yeah, cool. And then I don't know what's with OpenAI. Kind of like losing people left, right, and center. Why don't you talk about that?
Oh yes, the OpenAI story got rougher. It is Brad Lightcap, longtime executive and former COO, announced he's leaving to start something new, and he's not alone. They recently lost Fiji Simo, Bill Peebles, and Kevin Whale, plus their head of ethics, Chloe Bacalar, and their head of safety systems, Jonas Heidike, and their chief futurist, Joshua Akim. And basically, these are a lot of names that OpenAI no longer have among their team members. So I'm just curious what these people are up to now. And maybe we'll wait for the next whistleblower to actually give us the updates.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's definitely an exit wave that we're talking here. Even though, a couple of people, for example, had some medical conditions and they wanted to take a leave. So yeah, I mean, but like I said, this is a genuine exodus that we're talking about. And I think if you count like some of the recent ones, it's interesting to notice which roles. A lot of it is the safety, ethics, and research conscience working out, while the company, I mean, like Anthropic, they're also prepping for its IPO. So that could be something, and yeah, Bacalar's parting line was pointed that it shouldn't be one person with a multi-billion dollar company deciding what's right for billions of people. So that says a lot.
Yeah, and right in the middle of all of that, OpenAI shipped GPT 5.6 Cyber, which completes 95% of hard security tasks versus 1.5% for the safeguarded model. Basically, because they deliberately relaxed the refusals for vetted defenders, and they say they used it to find two chainable vulnerabilities in Chrome's V8 engine. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to check out this model. Yeah, I think it came out,
Just a couple of days ago,
yeah,
I
a couple of
believe.
days back. Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's crazy. It's crazy because, like, you're probably, I don't know, we're getting into rumors now, but with IPO, and maybe it's like a strategic restructure of the team, or maybe somebody else has personal reasons, but it really makes you question the leadership of OpenAI.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to force the connection, like you said, but it's kind of sitting here for all of us to contemplate, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay, I think we also got to talk a little bit about where Europe is in the AI scene, and especially in the robotics AI space, physical AI space. A few stories that are really about where the power sits this week have come up. Google is moving DeepMind's center of gravity from London to California, and obviously there have been a leadership a leadership shakeup at Google a couple of weeks back. Demi Sasabis stepped back to become chairman, and Alphabet chief scientist Corey now runs research and operations out of Mountain View, California. And I believe there was a key coding team also that was relocated from the UK to the US, California.
For Europe, it's sobering up because DeepMind was the continent's one frontier lab anchor, and now the headcount might stay in London, but the decisions move west. So that really puts us. I'm speaking on behalf of Europe in a completely different position because we've known DeepMind for quite a while, and the picture is changing.
Yeah, and also on that note, the European picture is getting starker on the hardware side as well, which is what I was getting to, but we had to cover the Google shakeup as well. New first half figures show Chinese makers at 97% of global humanoid robot shipments, with no European vendor in the top tier, at least here. Meanwhile, the EU AI Acts enforcement also went live on August 2nd, but it covers general purpose models and content transparency, not embodied AI, like that, where the real rules kind of like don't bite us, at least until 2028.
Yeah, so Europe's regulating the software while the robots ship from China into a rule book that doesn't cover them all just yet. So on the flip side, Asia's leaning into sovereignty. Naver and NVIDIA are expanding a Korean build-out with $1 billion investment, and Naver's fine-tuning an NVIDIA model into its own HyperClover X line rather than training from scratch. So a cheaper path to a culturally fluent national model is actually being built right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like they're taking sovereignty and doing it like smart. Kind of like don't build a frontier model from zero. Take a good one and make it yours. Kind of like an approach.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. I think we also had Lovable raising today. Let me get to that news.
Yeah, and that
was interesting. We just like had that reported a couple of hours back, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, Lovable raised a $400 million Series C at a $13.3 billion valuation. And the customer stories in the announcement all describe the same motion. The team closest to the problem builds the internal tool instead of buying it. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting news for Lovable. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. So the story isn't just about Lovable actually that they just raise money, is that companies are starting to build their own internal tools instead of buying more software. And that shows up first in the renewal conversation, and second in who's owning the authority, the data access, and the deprecation, obviously.
Yeah. Also, I think kind of what's staying honest on their headline numbers, though, which I was reading closely, the 60 million projects created and 900 million monthly visits are activity counts. They're not really like a proof of retention as such, and the revenue signal is also, I guess, self-reported. A survey of users who said they hope to monetize their projects on Lovable. I mean, ideally, the number I'd actually want is what share of those 60 million projects still serve traffic 90 days later, and that one's not in the post, right? So big congrats to them regardless. Like I said, it's definitely a big moment for Lovable, but yeah, just putting out some of the numbers that they had.
Yeah, having done several projects on Lovable myself, I do like to see projects there being monetized in some way. So Anyway, looking forward to that. And the build versus buy shift is the one that enterprise leaders probably should watch, because the team closest to the problem can just build the tool in an afternoon. A lot of the SaaS renewals get a lot harder nowadays.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of like new enterprise deployment solution companies, like we've been speaking to, are actually looking at building use case specific tools using like a mix of different models, right? That we've been seeing. So it's definitely a trend, and it's something that people do understand. I think
Exactly.
moving on to, I think this is really interesting. I feel because it's about Gemini. And speaking of scale, enterprise scale, we have to talk about Google here, because Google Gemini, Sundar Pichai just put out on Twitter that the Gemini app officially crossed 1 billion monthly active users, which is huge.
Yeah, which makes it actually the fastest growing product in Google's entire history. And it's now Google's 14th product to reach that 1 billion milestone, joining things like search, Google Maps, and YouTube, which is
Whoa.
insane.
Yeah, and then also I was reading the way people are using Gemini is also shifting. A massive 63% of users are interacting with Gemini via voice, and the app is generating over 150 million images every single day. It's also not
Insane.
just an Android win. Google says over 100 million of those active users are actually sitting on iOS.
Insane. And the engagement is actually wild, because 1 in 5 Gemini live interactions actually goes beyond voice now, and they're using camera sharing and screen sharing to solve actually real world problems. And it is a clear sign that the AI assistant race is moving way past the text box.
Yeah, as if they didn't have enough data on us already.
But obviously they optimize for it well enough, and which leads us to the next story. So let's end this one with the fun fight. Paul Graham posted that if you showed today's models to someone from the 1980s, they would absolutely call it AGI. We just can't see it because we are standing on the finish line.
Yeah, I read that. It's very interesting. And the timeline kind of came from him lovingly. Also, this machine learning scientist, Pedro Domingos, said no. They'd ask where the household robots are. I mean, we've been like hearing this about robots, and we don't really see in our houses yet. Someone pointed out the models still fumble Pong and Tetris, for example. And if you noted, we still tell AI text from human text pretty easily. Alfred Lin had the honest line on this, that we've been at since the 1950s, and the definition of success just keeps moving every time.
Which is actually the whole AGI debate in one thread. We hit every milestone and then decide it wasn't the real one. And same models, and half of the smartest people say we passed it years ago, and the other half say we're nowhere close even.
Yeah, I guess that's a good place to leave it today then. There's so much that happened, and I'm glad we're able to kind of cover the fortnight at least. Yeah, we're going to be back soon this week itself, if there's like something major happening, or else next Tuesday. So, yeah.